So Anna asked me to talk about how I got, I'm going to use her words, involved in solar technology and sapphires and all the other stuff people don't really see as female bastions. And to address that, I'm going to talk about 3 intersecting circles, and the circles are the name of my talk, and so it's where business and technology and the environment intersect. But once I've done that, how am I going to start? Where does it all start? And I decided that where to begin actually was me in a cradle, with my father standing over me. My father, who at 13, despite wanting to be a scientist, had to leave school in the Great Depression in Australia in the 30s and work on the family farm. I think he stood over me, metaphorically at least, and said, this child will be the scientist that I should have been. And so I grew up with never a thought any time ever that I wanted to be or would be anything but a scientist. So now it's just, that's a long life. You know, I'm 66 now, so I can't tell you all of it. So I'm just going to give you a few little pictures as we go along of how some impacting stuff. So at university, I was the only girl in a lot of my classes. That's hard to understand now, I guess. But if I tell you that my professor of ceramic engineering used to address the class as gentlemen and Miss Ferry, I mean, Miss Ferry, you'll get a feel for it. But I always felt I belonged there. And I think that was a part of being brought up to be that way. When I was 19, I started working in the laboratory attached to a manufacturing plant, where I learned all about quality control and how to develop new products. And I actually worked in science and found I loved it. So it all worked, didn't it? Some years later, I moved across to defence technology, developing sonar materials and then eventually sonar equipment that used those materials to work, and was promoted through the management ranks. And that's where I learned I love business too. Ask any of my startup businesses, I love the accounts and how to do all the guns and all. So then the second circle was formed, that's the business circle. And then in the late 80s, it was time to co-found my own business. And the third circle, I'm saying, well, what are we going to do this business with? We're interested in science, we're interested in business. And it was then that we were first realising that climate change was being accelerated by burning fossil fuels. And so energy was going to be, in my mind, the big issue of the next several decades. And so energy became the third circle of interest to me. And where all those 3 things intersected, that's where I wanted to work. So we founded a business that went through several energy projects, there's several names, various corporate structures, and ended up being a company called Dysol, which was developing artificial photosynthesis as a form of solar energy generation. And internationally recognised $200 million valuation on the Australian Stock Exchange. About 7 years ago, I exited Dysol, and I realised at that point that it wasn't really just energy that was important to me, but the whole social and physical environment in which we live and how that intersects with not just science, but science and technology, and not just business, but specifically new businesses and new industries and startup businesses. And so that's how I ended up working with the GRIFFIN Accelerator, where I'm one of the investor mentors, and we sort of take turns being chair. I'm chair of it at the moment, where we work with startup businesses. So I'm pretty happy now that I've got my 3 circles and I'm working in the centre of them. Now, whoops, did you see lots of pictures going by?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Because I said to Anna, I'm going to actually just speak. It's been a long time since I've actually just done a talk without having PowerPoint, but I think this is not a PowerPoint kind of talk. And she said to me, oh, it'd be nice to have some images behind you. I've got this feeling that perhaps you'd be bored if I was just looking at these standing here. So the images are from a couple of historical ones for solar pictures from Dysol and some of the chemistry that we did. There's one that was a steam coming out of biomass generated fuel generator. That's Uniflow Power is developing that product to replace diesel in remote locations. There's some balance testing using a fibre optic sensors and smart analysis in a company called PSI. There were children engaged in learning using the Quisling platform. There's music creation and collaboration by Juxtapost, a music startup also out of the GRIFFIN Accelerator. And finally, you probably noticed Anna's favourite. the lava blue sapphires.
Yeah.
And so, which is a story, a mine that used the technology that I'm happy to tell you about.